is Russell Clay. You can follow me on Twitter at Russell J. Clay. I'm here to talk about tight ends with you guys today. Rough week, man. Austin Hooper was really the only guy I got excited about, and he was obviously on the Thursday slate. And he actually didn't do all that well. I know he caught the touchdown, but only 3 of 6 targets. He wasn't as involved as I expected. So that's an interesting thing going forward. But obviously that's not relevant to our Week 9 main slates here. To get into it, initially here, if you like what we're doing here on the pods, give us a like and subscribe. If you have any questions for me, certainly shoot me a question on Twitter. I'd be willing to answer at any time, really, unless I'm not around, in which case I am deeply sorry. And then, you know, you can hate tweet me after I don't answer your question. So there you go. There's some more upside for you. In terms of high upside options this week, there really isn't, other than Greg Olsen against the Rams. You're not touching Travis Kelce, I don't think. I just don't see the upside here, especially with Nick Foles at starting quarterback. I know Nick Foles looked better last week. I think that's better for guys like Tyreek Hill and Chris Conley. And you know, if Jeremy Maclin doesn't play, I think those guys are more viable. I don't necessarily think this affects Travis Kelce as much. So I'm kind of avoiding him. I think they're just going to run the ball. Jags have a pretty weak run D, so I think they're just going to run the ball here, even with just Kendricks West back there. So that's something I'm looking at, or not looking at, I guess you could say. Greg Olsen, it's not a perfect matchup, but I think, you know, when you look at what he's done this year, really only that one game bad against Arizona. Other than that, he's been pretty dominant. I think you can throw him in there and feel really confident about what you're getting. I'm not loving Carolina's offense, but I'm not hating it this week. So I think that's really viable. But then you kind of go down here, you know. Olsen's a cash game guy, but I mean, Travis Rudolph, he's arguably the top play of the week against this Detroit team that's just terrible against tight ends. He's the cash game guy of the week with price included. I think you're looking at him fairly easily. You know, I just don't see much that would take me off of him. Obviously getting a lot of targets this year, really becoming a big part of that passing game, especially since Sam Bradford's got there. I think we're really going with him as a cash game guy. I don't see any other reason. The upside is there. The floor is there. It's just really easy, especially with no Gronk, no Graham on the main slate. I just think, you know, pretty simplistic. Delaney Walker might not play, popped up on the injury report today with practice. So, yeah, it's getting ugly. It's getting ugly. I don't trust Gary Barnidge with Corey Coleman back. Terrell Pryor's clearly the top option in that passing game, and Corey Coleman's first rounder, who was essentially the top option in the passing game before that. So I'm having trouble seeing Gary Barnidge even against this Dallas defense really breaking through here, but maybe worth a tournament, you know, toss in, but not really with Rudolph right there. I think you just go with that. Steve Smith might play. That means Dennis Pitta, not really worth it. I know he's been getting a ton of targets, but, you know, I think it's just going to be Mike Wallace and Steve Smith here. Joe Flacco is just not someone you can trust right now. I think you really just, you know, don't worry about that. Not really looking at Jason Witten either. Obviously had the touchdown to save his value last game, but he's really not a huge part of this offense anymore. Cole Beasley has kind of taken over as that dump-off guy. Dez Bryant being back. Zeke Elliott against this Cleveland run defense. Think you're easily fading him. Dwayne Allen might play. You're not really looking at Jack Doyle anymore. Zach Ertz, you know, I don't know what's going on, man. I was really high on Zach Ertz coming into this year. Obviously had the injury, but the way they're using him isn't conducive to fantasy points, so I'm just not really excited about what's going on with Philly for his purposes. So I'm not really looking at him. And hey, get your apology letters ready. Coby Fleener, Michael Thomas missed part of practice today. He is questionable for this game. If that's the case, you're looking at Coby Fleener as a really good value who might be underrated. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. Keep a close eye on that. If Thomas is out or limited in any sense, I think we're going with Fleener here in that matchup. I really like it. Hunter Henry not going to play. You hate that. Obviously looked good, but hasn't really been a part of the passing game in the last 2 weeks anyway. They've kind of shifted back to Gates. So nice peek at the future for the Chargers, but I think we're relegating him back to the scrap heap at this stage. This is where things get interesting. You can go with Eric Ebron if you want. I don't necessarily like him. Antonio Gates certainly in play, but I like Lance Kendricks this week. I know a lot of people are going to be paying attention to the Rams passing game. Maybe heard a lot of talk about Brian Quick and Kenny Britt. I like that call. Lance Kendricks, however, look at these targets. He's never seen this before in his career. Obviously a big receiving threat at Wisconsin. He is capable of this type of production and sustaining it. If he can get a touchdown here at 2,900, I mean, if he gets over 10 DK points, you're happy at 2,900. So I certainly think he can do that without catching a touchdown. And if he can, if he gets you 16 to 18 DK points, you're looking real strong there. So I like him a lot. I think he's really viable as a punt play. And I just don't see going any lower than this. I guess you could throw Dwayne Allen in there at 2,900. I certainly wouldn't mind that. I mean, obviously he has that upside. 2 games with 17 DK points before the injury. So, Andrew Luck's going to be looking his way if he's in there. I like that quite a bit. Other than that, though, I mean, I kind of joked around about Vance McDonald, but it's not really a joke. I mean, he did get 6 targets last week coming back from injury. He's a part of this passing game. I don't think we can ignore that. At 2,600, if you're really strapped and you want to throw one tournament lineup in there, that's really weird. I think you can do that. Other than that, no thanks. It's really too bad we didn't get Austin Hooper on this slate, but what are you going to do? As always, this is kind of the review here. I mean, that's what we're looking at. It's an ugly week. I want to pay up elsewhere, running back and wide receiver. I think that's just the way to go. So, yeah. Anyhow, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like and subscribe. If you want to read this article that I did, go and check it out on dailyfantasycafe.com. And as always, good luck this weekend, guys, and we will see you on the other side.